Defense Award winners, Quinton Williams, AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and Brees Hall, FedEx Ground Player of the Week, have arrived for Week 7 action in Denver. Who's next? The streaking Jets have elevated their game. Now they'll look to reach new heights at Mile High as a battle with the Broncos awaits. Thanks to our man, Will Hahn, who's on the scene there in Denver for those great aerial shots. Eric Allen inside the studio with Quincy Onwunwa. Coming up, we'll go back to Denver and hear from both Caroline Hendershot and Ethan Greenberg. And we're going to pull in Anthony Becht here in a second. But Quincy, big picture here. The New York Jets have an opportunity to go 5-2 overall. And that would be a fourth consecutive win and a fourth consecutive victory on the road.
Yeah, I think they have a great opportunity here. I saw a stat that said something like they haven't been 4-2 since 2015. And that was a year where the Jets should have made it to the playoffs. So you look at it now, they got a great opportunity to win some games, get themselves in great positioning, and hopefully make it to the playoffs and make a run there.
Okay, before we bring in Anthony, fans, here is your chance to participate in Pregame Central. You are on a modest one-game win streak. Rookie cornerback Sauce Gardner, there he is in Denver. He'll record at least one PD today against the Broncos. You can vote now. The number 4 overall pick out of Cincinnati is the only rookie since 2000 to record at least one pass defense in each of his first 6 games. Let's get out of the tunnel right now. We say good afternoon to Anthony Becht. Anthony, a lot of storylines heading into this game. The Jets won't face Russell Wilson. It is Brett Rippon today.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, internally for the Denver Broncos, may be a good thing. You know, here's a guy, Russell Wilson, who has not really played well himself. But a lot of prime time opportunities for this football team to shine, and he's really hit new levels in his career as a player. Nathaniel Hackett, his coach, the offensive coordinator as well, has not meshed well. There's always going to be strong kind of underlyings with Russell Wilson and the offense and how they want things done and how he wants things done. This might be internally a small breath of fresh air from Nathaniel Hackett, the fact that Brett Rippon is going to be the quarterback today. And what does that mean? Well, it means a couple of things. Number one, the game plan might be a little easier to kind of go by. You know, Russell Wilson forcing plays, throwing passes where they shouldn't be. A guy like Brett Rippon, who's probably having a conversation with his coach, and the coach is probably saying, look, move the chains, protect the football, move around with your legs, don't make the mistakes. If you do that, our defense is good enough to get us to the fourth quarter to give us a chance. So I think this is a little bit of a dangerous kind of situation right now for the Jets and what they're going to see today with the young quarterback.
Okay, there's Zach Wilson on the field in Denver. Quincy, earlier this week, Elijah Moore expresses frustration with lack of targets. Things boiled over this week. He was sent home Thursday and reportedly asked for a trade. On Friday, Robert Saleh said Moore won't play today against the Broncos and Denzel Mims will be active. What's your take on the situation?
Yeah, man, you know, I have so many different feelings about this situation. I think, first off, I want to say Robert Saleh definitely handled it in the best way possible. You know, you got a disgruntled player. He makes sure that you're not going to get too much flack on him. He knows that these things happen in football. But as far as Elijah Moore, you know, I'm slightly disappointed, but I'm also trying to be understanding as possible. I feel like he feels maybe to some degree that he's not needed right now. They're not using him the way that he's used to, and he wants to be used somewhere else. I think it's important for him to kind of reflect and see that he's still making a big impact on this team, that he's still a guy that teams have to key on. He's still a guy that teams have to pay attention to. And so his presence is felt every time he touches the field. So if he gives himself an opportunity to just be patient, you look at Corey Davis. Corey Davis hasn't been getting the targets that he usually gets in the beginning of the games. But he stays the course throughout the whole game, and he knows that at the end of the game, he's still going to have those opportunities. So I think it's important for him to keep that mind frame right here. Like, it may not be going the way you want to, but it's a long season, very long season, and you still have opportunities to do what you want to do.
Anthony, Robert Saleh said trading Moore is not a consideration for the Jets. There's Zach Wilson right now. We're watching a beautiful day in Denver. For more on that, we're going to get to Ethan Greenberg and Caroline Hendershot. But your take on the situation, because one thing that struck me throughout the week is the Jets offered their love and support to the receiver who last year in his rookie campaign had 5 touchdowns in 11 games.
Well, they're going to handle it professionally. Obviously, he's a very good player, and they know that he's a big part of what they're trying to do. I think there's a couple things you have to look at this. Number one, and I've mentioned this, and we've talked about this in previous games. Elijah Moore has to be used better in general. You have to find ways to get him the football, not necessarily just running routes, but just kind of the way you kind of utilize his skill set in the game to help him be productive. The toughest challenge when you have a lot of weapons, and the Jets do have those guys now, is how do you use Wilson? How do you use Moore? How do you get the most out of these players so that you can continue to flourish and advance yourself and win? The one thing there you can say, they are winning. And I think that's where the one caveat where Elijah Moore is kind of going sideways on this. He has to have conversations with his wide receiver coach, number one. His wide receiver coach, Miles Austin, needs to talk to him and make him understand he's a former player. He knows those experiences, where his role is and where he can be. Now you have a conversation with your offensive coordinator. The last thing you want to do as a player, and this is where the young players are a little different than maybe some of the other players, is going on social media. Social media is not the spot to go because context is taken a million different ways. It's taken a million different ways from the media. It's taken a million different ways from the players as well in your locker room, because we've seen some tweets out there and some things in social that you're trying to say, oh, is that tied into what Elijah said? Is that how they feel? You don't want to have that and be a disruption. Don't be a disruption. You're a second-year player. You're not getting the ball, but the one thing that Quincy was mentioning is that even though he's not getting the ball, he's still a factor in his routes. They're honoring him. They have to. He's got tremendous speed. He's got a lot of abilities. Those are the things, to me, that he's not really grasping, and the fact that they're also winning. I think this offense can be better with them if they use him better, but I just don't think Elijah Moore is a good spot. He should just continue to do what he's doing, help this football team get good. Now he's not on the field. That's going to hurt this offense, in my opinion, because you don't have a guy now that you have to worry about as much with those kind of skill sets that he has.
Listen, Elijah Moore back here in New Jersey this weekend. In fact, Quincy Enunwa and I just saw him out here on the field running routes. He's going to officially join the team or rejoin the team Monday. There is Braxton Berrios getting warmed up on the field. Overall here, Q, as we preview this matchup between the Jets and the Broncos, had two teams heading in totally different directions. We mentioned at the top, the Jets are looking for a fourth consecutive win. The Denver Broncos are trying to avoid a four-game losing streak. If you had told us before the start of the season, most people would have said, yeah, this would be a matchup between 4-2 and 2-4 clubs, but they probably would have picked the Broncos being the 4-2 club and the Jets being the 2-4 club. No. Things have changed.
Yeah. And that's a testament to Coach Saleh. Like you think about this team last year, the makeup, how they looked. Coach Saleh and Joe Douglas. The things that they've done in this offseason to really change and transform this team into a winning program, into a winning ball club. Like you said, going into the season, you would have thought Russell Wilson would have led this team into something amazing. They gave him that huge contract, and they really wanted to lean on him, and it's just not been going the way that they were expecting.
Anthony, on paper, does this have a feel of a low-scoring matchup between two clubs that have elite defenses?
Yeah, I think so. Defenses reign supreme in this one. I think the run game is going to be a big component for both teams. You're not going to see a lot of high-end risk by the Broncos in the passing game. And, of course, Zach Wilson, you don't know how it's going to be. I mean, he's been attacking. He's had some opportunities now where he's made some huge plays with his arm. They didn't need him as much in the game in the last few games. So we'll see how that all computes. But one thing you're like you said, that we can be a constant on is that both of these teams can play very good defense.
It's time for our game day storylines presented by Bud Light. Eric Allen here inside the studio. Let's go live to Denver right now. Caroline Hendershot, Ethan Greenberg. Good afternoon. It looks like a tremendous day for football.
Oh my God, it's beautiful, EA. The sun is shining, it's gorgeous. But let me just start with this. They just tested the cannon here. Let me tell you, it's loud. We can hear it. They don't need to test it anymore because it scared the living daylights out of me.
If it were on camera, it might have, not that it would have gone viral, but Quincy, Anthony, you, everyone watching right now would have very much enjoyed our reactions because it was very scary. Let's put it that way. I ducked too. I thought something was going on, and luckily it was just a cannon.
But game day storylines, back to the real juice of the story. There's a couple factors that are non-football that are going to go into today's game. First and foremost, the obvious one, the altitude. We're a mile above sea level at Mile High Stadium, but the players have been practicing and preparing for it all week. What have you seen from them, Ethan?
Well, the first thing that caught my eye was after practice Wednesday, we were down by the locker room. The team nutritionist was handing out pretzels. So I asked her, like, why are you handing out pretzels? Because pretzel seems like something I would like, not necessarily something in a football player's diet. She said, look, when your glycogen levels decrease, when you're a mile above sea level, you have to start preparing for that early. That happened Wednesday. They're also taking beetroot shots, which increases blood flow to the muscles. But focusing on the defensive line, to me, when you think about altitude, you think about substitutions and tapping out. But for the Jets defensive line, they have 8 defensive linemen, and they have a rotation already. Sheldon Rankin said the first time he played here was last year when the Jets lost in week 3, 26-0. He said he started to feel it. The depth is there for the Jets D-line, so I actually expect the Jets D-line to be one of the positions to be unaffected by the altitude.
And another factor that's actually weather-related is the wind. I looked earlier up at the board. 18 miles per hour is what it clocked in at, and there's going to be gusts from 20 to 30 miles per hour during the game, so that's something that really has to be monitored.
It may change my all in or not today answer. I assume there's a couple people unhappy with the wind gust, maybe a couple coordinators, maybe a player or two, and me and my hair product. We don't do well with wind, and EA knows that.
Well, I'm wondering right now if you're all in or not today should be something on how many pretzels you consume back here in Florham Park throughout the week, Greens. Hey,
Yeah,
a good one.
it's a good one. It was none. It was none.
I don't know if I believe that. Caroline, you had an opportunity to speak to the Jets veteran left tackle Dwayne Brown. He's been very good in those first 2 games that he's returned to the lineup. What did he say about the feel here with this young group of Jets that continues to build together?
Earlier this week, EA, he said this Jets team is for real. And when I asked him why, he said they just keep finding a way to win. So whether it's the offense going off or the defense being stingy or the special teams making plays, they've continued to find a way to win. And he said that's really what it's all about. So today, with the Broncos matchup, he said they have to start early. They have to continue throughout the whole game to hold that defense because they're 3rd ranked in the NFL, so it's going to be a tough challenge.
EA, I'm curious, everyone, on Seth's perspective, this Denver defense, going off what Caroline said, they have the personnel in the secondary to be able to stack the box, to try to stop somebody like Breece Hall, who's obviously come on strong these past couple weeks. So I'm very curious to see what Denver's defensive game plan is. And just as a side note, as we go back to you, a lot of green in the stands, just like last week at Lambeau Field. A lot of Jets jerseys, same thing here at Mile High.
We'll totally agree on that. Lock in your seats for Sunday, October 30th at 1 p.m. for a divisional matchup when the Jets host the New England Patriots, presented by the New Jersey Lottery. Get your tickets at nyjets.com/tickets. Okay, fellas, it is time for our Sunday spotlight. Let's start with you, Anthony.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's going to come down to the running game and the key defenders on the defensive side for the Broncos. Breece Hall versus Singleton, the linebacker. I mean, Singleton's done a really nice job with his tackles. They're amped up. He's not a very big linebacker, but what he does is he's able to get through. The defensive line does a nice job of opening up those seams, and he's not touched. Now, here's the one caveat. If the offensive line can get those secure double teams, get up to the second level, he is a non-factor. Once you get hands on him, he's so light. He's not a very big linebacker. It's a done deal because he's not going to be very effective also. Being able to kind of do those things, Breece Hall kind of setting those things up. Breece is one of the best, even in the NFL now, but all through his college career, of setting up those blocks, getting those backers where the lineman can get there. I think that's going to be huge today, so watch those two as they go against each other.
A couple things to keep in mind here. Breece Hall, team leader in rushing yards with 391, 3rd in receiving yards with 218. Alex Singleton was great Monday night against the Chargers. 19 solo tackles, 21 tackles in all. It is going to be a matchup to watch throughout the entire ball game. Q, where are you going with your spotlight?
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to go with Patrick Surtain against the Jets receivers, but I think I want to go a different direction this time. I want to go with the Jets pass rush against the Broncos O-line. They've been struggling. Russell Wilson is one of the top quarterback sack. I think he's number 6. You know, and you could say, well, Russell Wilson does a lot of moving around, so it makes it really hard for the Broncos O-line. But there's been a few different moments throughout the season where the Broncos O-line just hasn't cut it out, hasn't done what they needed to do. So now with Brett Rippon in, I want to see how that then changes what goes on. I know the Jets D-line has done really well with Quinnen, with JFM, with Carl Lawson. Those guys have been getting great pressure. So I want to see, and I'm curious to see if they continue to do that this week.
Yeah, you would figure that the Jets are going to be in that offensive backfield early and often today. I'm going to the quarterbacks, fellas. Brett Rippon steps into the spotlight for the Broncos, but the guy he'll be facing on the other sideline, Zach Wilson, 3-0 as a starter. That's the most important statistic of all. He's completed 58% of his passes, about 191 yards a game, 73.9 passer rating. He's been outstanding in the fourth quarter. Didn't have to do too much in the fourth quarter last week against the Green Bay Packers in a 17-point win. In fact, he never put the ball up in the air. You thought this was going to be Wilson versus Wilson today, but Russell Wilson down with the hamstring injury. I'm going to especially be focused on the quarterbacks because I think this game ultimately is going to come down to the turnover battle. For more on today's matchup, here's an exclusive bite from Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh.
They've done a great job. You know, D-line led by Quinnen. Carl's healthy, knock on wood. Just a really, really relentless group of young men on that front. I mean, we've been dressing 10 of those guys, and they've been wreaking havoc. DJ Reed and Ahmad on the corner, and then Jordan and LaMarcus are getting comfortable back there, and obviously the linebacker crew. Quan has been such a cool addition to that group and that room, and the amount of juice and energy that he's brought to that entire unit and this entire building, to be honest with you. CJ has looked so much more comfortable this year, and after having a 1-year layoff a year ago, you know, so he's just overall, they're all humming at a pretty good level, and but again, we're only 6 games in. We got 11 games left, and we've got some juggernauts on offense that we still have to go play, and so there's a lot of season left to be had.
Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh airs weekly at 7:30 a.m. on WCBS2, and the archive is available right now on NewYorkJets.com and our YouTube page. But Eric Allen with Quincy Enunwa in the studio, joined as always by Anthony Beck. Are you fellas ready for a little thing we like to call the scramble drill?
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right, let's roll. Quincy, should the Jets be underdogs today for a 7th consecutive game? By the way, when this was put together, they were underdogs, but now the line has shifted. Brett Rippon is the starting quarterback. The Jets are favored for the first time this year.
And I think it's obvious for all types of reasons, but no, they should not be underdogs. They should definitely be favored. This is a game that's winnable for the Jets.
Anthony, is this a trap matchup for a Jets team riding high and the Broncos are really scuffling?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a trap game. I think now that Brett Rippon is playing, I think there's a little more concern and a little more heightened awareness. I think Russell Wilson was playing so bad that it may have been a trap game for them. Now they have to kind of raise up and make sure a young quarterback doesn't do too much with this offense because he's, you know, playing a smarter game.
Okay, there's about 66 seconds on the clock for the scramble drill. Q. Who will have the most wide receiver reps today? Braxton Berrios, Denzel Mims, or Jeff Smith?
I mean, if the Jets are doing what they've been doing and be consistent with that, then I think it'll be Braxton Berrios, followed by Jeff Smith. Denzel Mims might find ways to get in, but I know Jeff Smith tends to know all the different positions, so I think he'll be the backup, and Denzel Mims will come in if he needs a rest.
Anthony, what concerns you most about the Broncos?
I think it's just Brett Rippon playing today. I mean, you haven't seen this guy do much. I mean, it's been since 2020, his last win versus the Jets at home. You're going to see a guy that, well, what's he going to lean on? I think he's going to lean on the high side of being more protective, less risky, and try to move the chains a little more. Maybe that gives a boost to the Broncos offense today.
Q, if the Jets win today, will they make the playoffs? Since 1990, teams that have started 5-2 have made the postseason 75.5% of the time.
I think it's a yes. I think we need to get into more divisional games. But as of right now, if they continue with this pace and effort and success, there's no reason why they can't make it to the playoffs.
AB, same question. What says you?
I think, if they can come out of this game and win, I really do believe that they're on track. I mean, I feel like you look at their schedule, they can get themselves in a position where confidence is high. So, yeah, I really think this team can make the playoffs.
Okay, the buzzer sounded, but I'm still going a couple more. Q, the the Dolphins, host the Steelers on Sunday night, and the Patriots host the Bears on Monday night. Will both AFC teams serve at home, the AFC East teams?
Yeah, I think so. I think that those two teams definitely have the opportunity to win, and the Dolphins now have the quarterback back, so it's an opportunity for them to kind of get back on track.
AB, will Bailey Zappi be the Patriots quarterback when New England comes to town next week?
I don't think so. I think Mac Jones is back, and he's the guy that's behind center.
Okay, and finally, this is for both of you. Q, we'll start with you. Trading deadline November 1st. Should GM Joe Douglas and the Jets make a deal before then?
Oh, I don't think so. I feel like they have the pieces they need right now. So I say no.
How about you, AB?
I mean, outside of just getting some extra draft picks, that's a possibility. But I just don't know a player right now they can add to their roster, really, across the board that would be available for them to be productive as far as a player trade.
From now through November 8th, tell us why you or someone you know hosts the best tailgate, never misses a game or rallies the loudest JETS chant, and deserves to be a member of the Jets Fan Hall of Fame class of 2022. Submit your nomination at NewYorkJets.com/Fan Hall of Fame. There you go. Okay, let's bring everybody in right now. We got AB. We have Caroline and Ethan in Denver, myself and Q inside the studio. Time for a little segment we'd like to call All In or Not Today. Let's take a look at the leaderboard right now. There's our rookie, Quincy Enunwa, staying hot, 5-1. Caroline Hendershot, ice cold at 1-5. Anthony and Ethan, right where they want to be, I think, within striking distance. Myself, 3-3. Before we get going here, any thoughts from the two in Denver as far as the leaderboard at this time?
Yeah, I said I would be happy. It would be a win-win if I lost my all in or not today last week. And while the Jets won, and that was great, I'm so annoyed that I keep losing.
It might have been a win-win, but in our books, it's still a loss.
Anthony Beck, what says you? I told everybody last week that I'll give you a 1.5 if you got yours right, and you indeed did get it right. The Jets rushed for more than 100 yards in the Packers last week.
Yeah, listen, I always feel confident every single week. I come out and give my best punches and blows, and I feel good about it at the end of the day. So there's a reason why my record is where it is, guys.
Q, you keeping humble here? I
No.
mean, 5-1 out of the gate.
No,
That doesn't happen to a lot of rookies.
The champ is here. That's all I got to say, man. That's it.
The champ
At
is
least
here.
he's honest.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I do
He's going
appreciate that.
championships after 6 weeks. I like that. Okay, that's good.
Hey, we got a receipt.
All right, no coach speak there from Quincy. The champ is here. All right, well, so we're off and running. So let's start with Caroline, since she's got to make up some ground. I think it's fair. Caroline, the Jets' defense will hold the Broncos to fewer than 16 points today. The Broncos' 31st scoring offense is 14.8 points a game, and now they have Brett Rippon playing quarterback.
You said it. Yeah, you lined me up perfectly. There's no other option for me but to go all in. And if this doesn't happen, I don't know what I'm going to do for next week's all in or not
The
today.
kiss of death from Caroline Hendershot.
I really don't know.
You just witnessed it.
Okay, Caroline again goes all in. Ethan, we're going back to you since you are in the land of the altitude. Greg Zuerlein will make a field goal from at least 48 yards today.
So, going back to earlier in the show, you asked me what I was thinking at the time. I was all in. Now we're talking about wind gust. After sitting here for about 30 minutes, I'm still all in. I'm riding it because here's the thing. The wind gusts right now, they're intermittent. So to me, I think there's going to be enough time to set up. You know, the altitude means that Greg the Leg will be able to boot one from hopefully 50 plus. I'd like to see that. And I think he can do it, definitely. And I think he'll have the opportunity to, especially considering the Broncos defense is very stingent.
Who would have thought that we got a food report from Ethan and also a weather report on the same show? We'll catch
The more
up
you
with
can do.
we will catch up with you all. Well, Ethan in a couple moments, and Caroline for Jets overtime. There is Zach Wilson, Jets Broncos, about a $140 away there at Mile High. Anthony, let's go back to you. Zach Wilson will throw for at least 200 yards today. The Broncos had the 5th ranked passing defense. They're giving up less than 185 yards a game.
They are. That's a tall task, but I feel good about this. I always want to challenge when I come up with my all ins and knots here, guys. You know how I usually do it. I took a big challenge last week when no one believed they could rush for more yards, and they obliterated. Of course, I'm all in on this one. Zach Wilson comes through. He's going to utilize his arm today. He's going to have his passes are going to be strong enough to cut through that wind that Ethan's talking about. I think he's going to have a good day today.
Interesting numbers for Wilson in the 3 victories so far. 252 yards versus the Steelers, 210 yards versus the Dolphins, just 110 versus the Packers. He's been great in the 4th quarter. 8 drives, 6 scoring possessions, and 2 kneel downs. Doesn't get any better than that. Quincy, there's Garrett Wilson getting warmed up. He's ready. The Jets offense will be responsible for 17 points today against the 3rd-ranked Broncos scoring defense.
Yeah, so actually, as I'm looking at this, I feel like mine will be competing with AB's right here, because if Zach Wilson does throw for over 200, I'm going to assume that they're also going to get 17 points. But today, I'm going not today. But not because I don't believe that the team won't score 17 points. I feel like defense is going to do a great job. They're going to get a pick, maybe a pick 6, maybe a fumble recovery for a touchdown, special teams. I feel like it's going to be a whole team effort, and so I'm going not today.
The Broncos has just been so stingy throughout the season. They've allowed fewer than 20 in 5 of their 6 games to date. They are giving up 10 points a game at home, and then you think about their last 2 games. The Colts and the Chargers combined for 25 points in regulation. They're just not giving up too much. Let's look at our fan poll. Rookie cornerback Sauce Gardner will record at least 1 PD today against the Broncos. The number 4 overall pick out of Cincinnati is the only rookie since 2000 to record at least 1 PD in each of his first 6 games. That vote is what we like to call a landslide. 97% say yes. Sauce Gardner is going to get his hand on a football from Brett Rippon today. We are a couple moments away from inactives as we're watching the Jets warm up on the field in Denver. Oh, yeah. As our technical director, Matt Sickoff, just reminded me, what about my all-in or not today? The Jets will have 0 turnovers for a 3rd consecutive game. I'm actually going not today. The Jets are tied for 22nd in the NFL with 9 giveaways. Denver has only 7 takeaways. That's tied for 18th. But I'm going to play the law of averages. It is awfully difficult to have a 3-game run in the NFL where you're not going to have 1 turnover. I'm not saying the Jets are going to lose today. I believe they're actually going to win. I do think they are going to turn the football over at some point. It's tough. They're playing a very good defense against the Broncos. At some point, that streak's going to come to an end. I think they do turn it over once today. There's Zach Wilson, Breece Hall, Michael Carter. That's a dynamic offensive backfield for the New York Jets. Anthony, while we watch these guys warm up, I wanted to ask you what you thought about the stress that puts on a defense when you have both Carter and Hall on the field at the same time.
Yeah, I really believe it takes a little bit away of what you're trying to do from a blitz package standpoint. You have 2 runners that can really do a lot of things in the run game, in the pass game, especially if they go that 21 personnel where they have both of those backs in the game, which we saw a couple weeks ago. I think it's very dangerous. So today, I think it's going to be a complete effort. I think you want to see the pass and the run work off each other today. You want to see Zach, really get into a groove. I think he's going to have some opportunities, especially if they want to get up into the box a little bit. He may have some chances. Let's see the accuracy potentially down the field. A couple guys like Garrett Wilson getting involved a little more. Could have been an opportunity for, potentially Elijah Moore in this game in a situation where you see a team that may want to try to stop the run. So, maybe that a guy like a Mims or a Berrios become a factor. And now it's like, okay, now the ball's getting moved around a little bit, so I'm interested to see how that goes offensively.
The green and white faithful, they travel. They are out in full force today. Quinnen Williams signing a couple autographs. Great scene. Quinnen Williams, the reigning AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Outstanding against the Packers, did everything. Quincy, what do you think about the Broncos' back end? They got Patrick Surtain in his second year, one of the elite cornerbacks in the National Football League. And then that safety tandem is really good with Kareem Jackson. He's been there for a long time. And then Justin Simmons is a perennial Pro Bowl player.
Yeah, they got, their names speak for themselves. Their talent speaks for themselves. Their resume speaks for themselves. They've got some talented guys back there. I think one name that we're not talking about was the guy Demarcus Mathis. Last week, he was highly penalized. A guy that's going to struggle out there, and this would have been the game for Elijah Moore to go out there and probably get some reps, get some opportunities. And it's unfortunate what's going on. But as a whole, I think that the receivers are going to have a tough time this week. Last week, if you look at the film, Jair Alexander had a great game against our receivers. He had made a few plays, a couple pass deflections, and he just kind of locked down his side as much as he needed to. So I think this week the Jets receivers really need to make sure that they're watching that film and making sure they're coming into this game prepared, because this is going to be another secondary that's going to really test their skills.
Quinnen Williams, only 24 years old. He's becoming a bona fide superstar in the National Football League, signing autographs right there in Denver. Conversely, let's flip it to the other side, AB, as we look at Quinnen there. The Jets like to rush 4, and they can get home rushing 4. With that being said, do you stick with the formula or you change it up against a guy who hasn't been in the lineup this year, and he's a career backup in Brett Rippon? Do you want to see them dial up some pressure?
I think it's always good to be versatile and show multiple things, never be the same every time. But listen, when you're going against a young quarterback and you can get home with 4, that just puts more opportunities in the secondary, the second level of the defense, to be in position to make potential turnovers, interceptions, tip balls. So it's not going to be as easy for this young man to get out there. He's going to have to be quick with the ball. He starts feeling that pressure and starts patting. That's when you know there's going to be some issues in this game. I think that's a positive right now that the Jets feel good about on defense.
Yeah, Q, the Jets got to feel great about playing 7 in the back end, knowing that those guys are wreaking havoc up front.
Yeah, exactly. and if you look at through history, it's always needed. Like any great DB tandem always needs a great pass rush. That's why I highlighted the pass rush this week, because I know that these guys the DBs are going to need that pass rush to get through so that the DBs can have a great time and not have to spend too much time covering. But, like I said before, these guys are so talented. Quinnen Williams, he's just been doing so great this year. He's really taken that next step to be a leader off the field and on the field. He's doing what he needs to do. So, I'm excited to see what they do against this Broncos O-line that's been struggling, especially with a young quarterback that just doesn't know what this team is going to bring to him.
Anthony, you know systems well. How is Nathaniel Hackett going to try to get something going on the ground? The Broncos don't have Javonte Williams. They got a banged-up offensive line that, frankly, has not been playing well. Melvin Gordon's had his issues this year, and they might turn to Latavius Murray to be the guy today.
Just knowing his personality and what he's tried to do, I think he's just going to try to slam it up in there and put themselves into third down short situations potentially where they're moving the sticks and give their quarterback an easy run. What I would do personally with a young quarterback, I would spread the Jets out. I would actually have, a little more 10 personnel, 1 back runs, potentially some draws, quick hitters on the outside, get the ball over my playmakers' hands and early in the game and see what the Jets do defensively. Take that all out of their hands. Take out the fact that their pass rush is going to be good. I can get quick hitters right now. So he's got 2 options. I think he'll lean on the fact that he's going to be conservative as heck. But I'll be honest with you, I would spread it out. I'd do a little bit of a different wrinkle what I normally do. And remember, guys, it's not Russell Wilson back there. Nathaniel can change some things up.
Yep.
Look for something to be a little different in this game for sure.
Good stuff, AB. We will see you for Jets overtime after Jets Broncos this afternoon. Let's go right back to Denver. Greens, the Jets did have a practice squad elevation on Saturday. Who was it?
Kenny Yeboah, EA. He was elevated last week, so I know we're getting the inactives in under a minute now, but you would imagine that either the Jets have 4 tight ends or Jeremy Ruckert would be down again and Kenny Yeboah would be up for a second consecutive week.
One guy that we know is going to be inactive, Jermaine Johnson. But the Jets are hoping that he might be in play next week, right?
Definitely. I think the vibe that you got from Coach Robert Saleh was that he should be able to play against the Patriots. Now, again, we'll find out what the case may be on Wednesday when the Jets practice for the first time after today's game. But I think all indications are that Jermaine Johnson should at least be questionable for Sunday's game. Next week against the Patriots, he will not play today. And another guy that we do not know, or that we do know will not play, that's Elijah Moore, EA. But it is 12:35 local. It is, I assume, 2 hours after that in the East Coast. So I will read the inactives. Mike White, Elijah Moore, Jeremy Ruckert, Bryce Hall, Jermaine Johnson, and Ashton Davis. That was the guy that was questionable, a game-time decision with the hamstring injury. He is not playing, which means that Tony Adams, the undrafted free agent out of Illinois, will be up today for the green and white.
Very good stuff, Greens. We will see you on Jets Overtime. That's a cool scene in Denver. Zach Wilson signing a bunch of autographs there that I'm seeing. And the funny thing about that, Q, was he's going by and all the Jets fans are there, and the one Bronco dude just sitting there.
I saw
that was a cool sight.
I saw that. He wanted to
Stuck out like a sore thumb wearing the orange.
Yeah, it was a funny scene.
So you feeling good about today?
Definitely feeling good. You know, I think all signs point to the Jets. As long as they do what they need to do, obviously that's every week's story, but as long as they make sure that they're handling everything that they need to handle, getting this quarterback down, making the plays they need to make on offense, it should be a win for them.
Yep. Oh, got a chance to go to 5-2. Enjoy the Bud Lights, drink responsibly, and then come back for Jets Overtime presented by SiriusXM in a few hours. Enjoy it, everybody.